Back out to the phone lines we go. Luke Johnson covers the black and gold. Joins us just about weekly here. Luke, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Doing very well. You chatted with Mickey Loomis yesterday. He addressed a gaggle of media, as it were. I would imagine that the topic of head coach was pretty prevalent there. Any indication as to where they are in that process?
So as of right now, well, shoot, at the moment, they might have interviewed 4 candidates. By the time we talked to him yesterday, they'd interviewed Doug Peterson, Brian Flores, and Aaron Glenn. I think we talked to them right after they'd finished their interview with Aaron Glenn. And then today and maybe even tomorrow, they'll be conducting their interviews with their in-house candidates, special teams coordinator Darren Rizzi and defensive coordinator Dennis Allen. And then, he told us that there's probably going to be at least one more candidate that they interview. We should be getting word on who that is soon. There's, I think, a chance that it's Byron Leftwich, who, they were reportedly requesting permission to interview. That interview has not taken place yet. So he could be a name to watch, as well as one of the coordinators from the championship games this past weekend, somebody like Eric Bieniemy or something like that. So I still think there's still some stuff to go yet, but they're pretty far along in the process at this point.
Why did it take so long to get to the in-house guys? I mean, obviously they're right there.
Yeah, I think they probably wanted to let them do some work this week in Mobile, I think probably, they have those guys basically available to them whenever they want. This past week in Mobile, the coaches from around the country were there, so they could just bring them in and talk to them there. So I think that probably makes the most sense to me. It's why they interviewed Doug Peterson before they went to Mobile, because I don't believe he was there this week. So I think it's just a logistics thing more than anything.
Saints fans have seen Trevor Siemian take snaps at quarterback, Ian Book, Taysom Hill, and obviously Jameis Winston. If most of these guys are probably not your quarterback of the future, it's safe to say the Saints are probably going to be pretty active in this quarterback market this offseason?
Yeah, I think so. Look, and I think of those 4, Jameis is the only one with like a real legitimate shot at being the starting quarterback next year. Obviously, he's a free agent. And we haven't talked to him about how, even whether he would want to come back without Sean Payton here. That's obviously something you have to consider when you're talking about the quarterback position. But Jameis is definitely going to be somebody that they look into, I think. And they'll also, I'm sure, be working these other GMs and seeing what it would take to, if they were willing to trade away one of their guys, whether that's somebody like Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers, and then you got to consider whether one of those guys would be willing to come here without Sean here. There's just a lot of different directions it can take right now, and that's why when we asked him about it yesterday, he kind of wasn't really able to answer, because he's like, it kind of depends on the head coach, and I think that works both ways. It depends on the head coach for whether a guy would want to come here and take part in what they have built already. Or whether that head coach would maybe want to look at somebody in this draft class, or if, like, let's say it's Dennis Allen, and we didn't know this because he was a defensive coordinator. We always talked to him about defensive players, but maybe Dennis Allen was a huge fan of Jameis Winston. You just don't know. So I think there's so many different directions this can go still, but I feel pretty confident that if there is a market, especially a trade market for a veteran quarterback, they'll look into it because they believe they have a really good roster here.
I'm just so curious, and I don't know if we'll ever get the answer, but about the dynamic of the discussion between Mickey Loomis and these prospective head coaching candidates. Is it Mickey saying, hey, what would your plan at quarterback be if you were brought here? Or is it Mickey saying, this is our plan at quarterback, what do you think of it? Like, I'm curious as to what the dynamic would be in that room.
No, yeah, I think, and this is speculation, right? And this is just based on working with these guys for a number of years and kind of getting a little bit of a sense of how they operate. I would think that conversation would be more them gauging their mind on how they think the Saints should proceed. Because, this is going to be a relationship, right? Mickey is not planning on going anywhere. Their front office executives. I mean, they've had very stable guys there, right? Jeff Ireland's been here since 2015. Kai Harley's been here, I think, since 2008 or 9. Michael Parrington is new in his role as the director of pro personnel, but he has been with the organization, I think, since 2012. So these guys all know like how they want to operate, but they want to get a sense for how that head coach wants to go forward with the team, and see how that fits into their way of doing things. So that would kind of be my guess. And I think the Saints kind of have an idea of what they want to do at quarterback, if like all the chips fall the right way, right? But I think this part of this whole thing is seeing how some of these candidates fit into what they've already built, because they are not interested in just blowing it all up and tearing it all down and starting fresh. So that's kind of how I would view that.
I think we all here in Louisiana remember what the Saints culture was like before Sean Payton came into town. Do you think if they do keep a coach that's currently on the staff or that's coached on this team before, like Glenn, that would be probably the biggest reason why they would go that route?
Yeah, look, when you look at their candidates, right, all these guys have one of two things, right? All the 5 guys that have been put out there that they were definitely interviewing, they either have some success as a head coach or head coaching experience, rather. Doug Peterson obviously won a Super Bowl. Brian Flores, I think, did a pretty good job in his 3 years in Miami. I think he was the first coach to put together back-to-back winning seasons since like 2002 with that franchise. Those guys have a pretty clear resume, right? And then the others that they're looking at are guys who have experience with what they're doing here. And, that list is bigger. Aaron Glenn obviously was with the Saints for, I think, 5 seasons before he took the DC job last year in Detroit. Dennis Allen has been here for 12 out of the last 16 years. And Darren Rizzi has been here before, and he's also had head coach interviews before. So I think when you're looking at this group of candidates, you're saying, okay, they clearly, if somebody is not somebody that's already proven as a head coach or has a proven track record as a head coach, we want them to be familiar with what we do here. And then I think you look at all those candidates, and of those 5, only one of them has been a head coach and also has an idea of what they like to do there. And that's Dennis Allen. And I think that's why a lot of people are considering him the front runner. And I think I would consider him the front runner as well, right? I think he has all of the qualities that they want in their prospective head coach. I'm not saying he's going to get the job, but I think everything that they've done so far points to like him being kind of the guy that really fits the bill of what they're looking for.
Did Mickey give any indication of a time frame tomorrow, and does the Super Bowl have anything to do with that?
No, he didn't give any indication of that. And basically he said what he said all along, and that is, we're not going to rush to make a decision that we feel is really important. I still think that this could be a thing that's wrapped up before the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I would almost expect it, because they've moved pretty quick in the interviews. They've identified who they want to do. They're not like the Vikings are out here doing 9-hour interviews. They're not doing that. I think they have a pretty good sense of what they want to get to know out of these guys, what they're looking for in the job, and I think if they had their way, they wouldn't even be bothering doing these second interviews outside of just clearing some things up that came up the first time around. So, I would imagine that even though he said he's going to take the necessary amount of time, the amount of time he should be taking to make a really important decision, I don't think they're going to drag this out very long.
You're a native of Wisconsin. You're in the NFL circles. Do you believe that Aaron Rodgers has played his last game in Green Bay?
I do. Yeah, I just think that I've kind of seen this play out before.
Yep.
Right? I feel like for like 4 years, everybody was wondering if Brett Favre was done, and I just think you look at the way everything's gone down there with last off season, with just the repeated comments from Aaron about like things that are making him unhappy, their failures, frankly, in the playoffs. Especially when you got a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who's obviously still very talented, but doesn't have very many years left. I would bet that, coming up short in the NFC Championship game, like 3 times in the last 4 years, that probably gnaws at him. And that probably enhances some of his gripes with the organization and the way it's handled its roster building and all that stuff. I would. I'm obviously saying this I just as somebody who grew up watching that franchise, and with no real reporting there, but it just very much looks like it's run its course. I would not be surprised to see him playing for another team this upcoming season.
Are the Saints an option there?
I think so, but they're a much less attractive option now, right?
Right.
And some of that depends on who they land as their head coach, or if it's let's say it is Dennis Allen, who's obviously a defensive minded head coach, and I think that depends. That would be who his offensive coordinator is going to be. I don't think it's necessarily a given that it's going to be Pete Carmichael, even though Pete's been here for so long. So I think there's a lot of different variables in play there. Whether Aaron Rodgers would even want to come here, but I think if you're just looking at just in terms of what's available, obviously they need to do some work at the skill positions, the receiver position specifically. But outside of that, I mean, they won 9 games last year with everything that happened, and they're going to be bringing back, I would think, a very similar roster that's only going to add to it instead of taking away like they had to do last year. So if he is available, I will say this, all right, if he is available, I think the Saints are going to pursue that very hard. And I don't think they're going to let their cap situation, while it seems dire, I don't think they're going to let that get in their way. And I think they would make a very aggressive play, and I think that just ends up coming down to Aaron Rodgers and what the Packers want in terms of compensation.
Follow along by Luke Johnson. They'll be following this thing until the Saints make a decision. Luke, we appreciate some time.
Always my pleasure, guys. Talk to you soon.
Thanks so much for watching Hunt and Hill on YouTube.
Now do us a favor. Hit the red subscribe button below and throw us a like. We'll see you next time.